With me here today is Chief Dennis Riley from the Grinnell Police Department and Betty Andrews, the president of the Iowa-Nebraska NAACP. Once the three of us have completed our remarks, we will be available for questions. This press conference has been called to provide an update on the investigation into the homicide death of 44-year-old Grinnell resident Michael Williams. Michael's body was found on September 16th along a rural Jasper County road. This launched an investigation where more than 50 law enforcement officers have worked to bring to account those who have not only violated our state laws, but have also violated the sense of safety in the city of Grinnell and within the Black community. The information being released during this press conference was shared with Michael's family just a few moments ago. While our goal is to provide transparency and assurance to the public, obtaining justice for Michael is at the heart of this law enforcement investigation. There will be information known to law enforcement that cannot and will not be released here today. As a result of a joint investigation by the Division of Criminal Investigation, the Grinnell Police Department, and the Jasper County Sheriff's Office, we can now report that criminal charges have been filed against 4 individuals for their participation before and after Michael's death. Each of the 4 individuals are currently in police custody. This morning, law enforcement arrested 31-year-old Steven Vogel of Grinnell. Vogel has been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, a Class A felony, and 1 count of abuse of a corpse, a Class D felony. Vogel is currently at the Marshall County Jail, where he was already in custody on unrelated charges. Also arrested were 55-year-old Julia Cox, 57-year-old Roy Garner, and 29-year-old Cody Johnson, all of Grinnell. Each of those 3 have been charged with 1 count of abuse of a corpse, destruction of evidence, which is an aggravated misdemeanor, and accessory after the fact, also an aggravated misdemeanor. Additionally, Cox and Garner were also charged with an additional count of destruction of evidence. All 3 of those are being held at the Poweshiek County Jail. The circumstances surrounding Michael's death and the limited facts revealed about the discovery of this crime have understandably caused concern within the Grinnell community and beyond. Evidence and statements gathered during this investigation have shown the actions against Michael were not random. Michael Williams and Steven Vogel were known acquaintances who often socialized within the same circles. While it would be inappropriate to speak to a motive in this case, I can say, without hesitation, that no evidence has been found to show the acts against Michael Williams were motivated by his race. The evidence in this case, which is detailed in criminal complaints, alleges that Michael was killed in Grinnell on or about September 12th of 2020. Michael's body was then wrapped in cloth, plastic, and carpet, which was secured to him by rope and duct tape. He was then taken to rural Kellogg on the afternoon of September 16th, where he was set ablaze. It is through the actions of volunteer firefighters from the Kellogg Volunteer Fire Department and a Jasper County deputy, along with the professionals at the Office of the State Medical Examiner and the DCI Criminalistics Laboratory, that the fire set to conceal Michael's identity and destroy evidence of the crimes committed against him were not completely successful. Law enforcement has investigated Michael's death as a homicide from the onset. On September 18th, the Office of the State Medical Examiner classified Michael's manner of death as homicide and his cause of death as consistent with strangulation. Criminal charges are a milestone in any investigation. This investigation is not complete. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Grinnell Police Department or the DCI. Today's arrests are a direct result of cooperation between law enforcement and the members of the Grinnell community. At the conclusion of this press conference, copies of booking photos and criminal complaints will be available to the media in attendance. These same items will be uploaded to the website for the Iowa Department of Public Safety for those who wish to review them. A reminder, a criminal charge is merely an accusation, and all defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. My name is Dennis Riley. Riley spelled R-E-I-L-L-Y, and I'm the Chief of Police in Grinnell. Today we have kids in our community and elsewhere who are without a father and without a grandfather. That should never happen in this manner. Mike's children were important to him. As a community, we need to support them and be there for them. Big Mike, as he was commonly referred to for those who knew him, was a member of our community, and our community mourns his loss. We mourn for his children, we mourn for his parents, and we mourn for his extended family. Our mission from the very beginning, and that will continue, is to bring justice for Mike and justice for his family. As described by Agent DeCamp, we have placed a significant amount of resources towards this investigation, and that's what brings us here today. But this is not where it stops. We will continue to collectively work with DCI, with the Poweshiek County Attorney, with the Iowa Attorney General's Office, and other law enforcement partners until the defendants are brought to trial by a jury of their peers. I fully recognize the national conversation that is taking place in our country as it relates to violence on Black Americans. Mike was a member of our community, and as such, I understand the heightened sense of danger that has caused our community members, and in particular, members of our Black community. So I just want to be clear to say that this was not a random act of violence. Those responsible for this heinous act, they knew each other. They were associates with each other. They hung out together. Mike hung out with them. Mike was part of their circle. They've known each other for years, and those relationships are well established. We feel confident in the case thus far and the arrests that were made this morning. There continues to be no danger or threat to our community, but again, I can't emphasize enough understanding the fear that this horrible crime has caused our community members. This terrible act is not representative of, nor does it reflect upon the welcoming community that Grinnell is. There is no place for callous acts such as this, whether it be here or anywhere in our country. We need to pull together as a community, support each other, and by God, most importantly, support Mike's family. Please pray for them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Betty Andrews. I'm president of the Iowa-Nebraska NAACP, and flanking me are Kevin Sanders, our president of the Iowa City NAACP, and Arnold Woods, Jr., the immediate past state president and vice president of the Des Moines branch. The NAACP wishes to send our condolences to the family of Michael Williams, his children who are in the Grinnell community, his mother in New York State, and his father in Florida, and to all those that loved him, including the friends that he's known, and then even those that have recently expressed concern, and rightfully so, about the manner in which Mr. Williams died. We continue to keep the family in our prayers and assure you that no matter how this gentleman died, this gentleman fondly known to the community as Big Mike, no matter how he met his demise, it is unacceptable. And we join you all in seeking justice. Justice for Mr. Williams and all who loved him, and justice for this community. It is understandable that having a body of an African American man found burning in a small town in Iowa would raise several red flags and concerns. Because for many, it trumps up images from a not too distant past of when blacks brutally died at the hands of cowardice, racist lynch mobs. To that end, the Iowa community is concerned. Our office at the NAACP has received numerous calls and inquiries in this matter, and the NAACP takes those concerns very seriously. Given that the current climate where racial justice is on the front burner for so many in America and in Iowa, as we now stand in the wake of the recent public lynchings of George Floyd, of the death of Breonna Taylor, and Manuel Ellis, among many countless others, we understand these concerns. We understand the fear that an incident like this evokes in a state where the minority population is very small, but the racial disparities are vast. It is extremely important that this concern be addressed. Earlier this year, the NAACP established the statewide law enforcement Vision for Equity Task Force along with the State Police Chiefs Association. And one of those goals of that task force was to strengthen communication between law enforcement and communities of color. Kevin Sanders, our Iowa City branch president, co-chairs that task force. And through that task force process, the NAACP has been in communication with Chief Riley and DCI Special Agent in Charge, DeCamp, and other officials to inquire and address the concerns of the community. We were able to meet last night, and they shared what they shared here today with you, and they answered our questions. We questioned their answers. They answered more questions. They shared what they could without, of course, jeopardizing the ongoing investigation. We talked to them about the four aforementioned fears. We talked to them about the dynamics of race, relationships across racial lines, and a number of other topics. From that meeting and the information that we at this point have heard, we want to confirm that, first of all, no matter how Mr. Williams died, it was a crime against mankind. But based on our understanding of the well-established relationship that the victim and suspects had, the accounts that were shared by the witnesses, the information relayed to us about the circumstances of the crime and from the medical examiner, and the answers to the Q&A session that we had with authorities. At this time, the NAACP sees no indication that Mr. Williams' death, the NAACP sees no indication that Mr. Williams was targeted because of his race. We do understand that as the investigation is ongoing and the facts presented at this time are preliminary. So we continue to be open to any additional information that might surface and are also open to revising our statement if need be. But at this time, this is where we are. Let me once again make it clear that justice still is needed in this case, and we join the family, law enforcement officials, and the community in seeking that justice. Again, the NAACP offers our sincerest condolences. Thank you.
This time, if there are any questions, we'd be glad to field those. Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time that Vogel and Williams were in contact? And do you all know if there's a motive yet?
So we can't talk to motive at this point. The last known contact is going to be sometime that weekend, September 11, 12, 13.
Adam, can you talk about where this happened?
Yeah, so the crime scene here where this murder took place is going to be 1203 Spring Street here in town.
Is that a house?
It is a house.
So can we say, you talk about associates, were they friends? Or can we go that far? Or?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I'll be honest, we've talked about that a lot. I will say yes, they were friends, but anytime that one person kills another, I don't think that's too friendly. So they did have a relationship where they at least socialized together.
Can you talk about a little bit on what you found on the scene? Because at the time when I talked to you then, the fire certainly was probably set to cover up evidence. You said that often doesn't work. I know you can't get into a lot of detail, but did you find something there that helped you get to where we are today?
Yeah, the advances in forensic science are amazing, and what the people behind the microscopes can do is fantastic. And so there was, as we all know, fire is a very destructive force, yet they were able to help us identify Mr. Williams through, in spite of, I guess, the damage that the fire can cause. And so the fire was the biggest piece. There were some other items there, as we talked about, the wrapping around the body, things like that were found at the scene that were able to help us come to a conclusion and determine who was ultimately responsible. Yes, ma'am.
I know you had mentioned that Williams and Vogel knew each other, but I just want to get clarification. Did Williams have at least 3 other people involved?
I know that he knew, at least knew Mr. Johnson. Yeah.
So do you feel confident you know where he was being held for 4 days before he was done?
We do.
Was he at the house?
He was. Yes, sir.
Does anyone here want to comment on the fact that there's a blog, a Facebook post this morning with the booking photos of Vogel and one of the other defendants that was already posted before this press conference?
I don't know anything about that. No, not aware of that. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any priors on the defendants?
Any priors? Yeah, I do not have their criminal history available to me. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your time and for your attention. And I echo the chief and Ms. Andrews when I extend our sincere condolences to the Williams family and to the community. And hopefully this will help in the healing process for all of them. Thank you.